being a content creator isn't just about the quality of content that you make, it's about the quality of the picture and the audio, and especially the audio. You could be watching this video in crispy 4K, but if it sounds like it's recorded through a packet of crisps, it's not going to be acceptable. So you want to up your game. You want to make sure you've got some decent quality equipment. But as with anything, prices go up and things change, things move in the industry, and finally we're starting to see some products which are designed for people like streamers and podcasters. So today I want to show you guys the new Fifine SC3. Before I go anywhere, Fifine, I don't know how you pronounce it. Fifine, I'm using their microphone. They didn't send this to me. I bought this microphone. This is the Fifine. I'm going to call it Fifine from now on. This is the K669D dynamic microphone. It's running into my Zoom PodTrack P4 for this particular moment in time, although later on I will make sure that it's connected through this. So what is the SC3? Well, they call this a gaming mixer, but I think it's a bit more than gaming. If anything, I think it's just a general podcast or creative content person mixer. It's not really specifically for gaming, even though they market it that way. What it is an audio volume mixer, but it's also an audio interface if you happen to be using something like a dynamic microphone. You don't just have to be using dynamic mics, but nowadays we're seeing more and more devices come out which are interfaces that you can use. You can plug microphones into them. They will allow you to connect both condenser and dynamic microphones, and they have an XLR connector on the back. This one, it's over this side here. This one has an XLR balance port. It actually is. It's a combined port. It's XLR or microphone input. You know, the 6.5, 6.3, 6.5-ish millimeter. You know, the big giant one that looks like this. The big one. This is an adapter, but that can also plug into the back there. So it gives you that mixture port. So except... Stop doing that. It's a combined port. I'm sorry. Now, like I said, it's a mixer, and that means that you can do multiple things with it. Let me get it at the right angle here for the camera. So you have different inputs and you have different control for different things here. So over here, we've got a volume control, and that's for the microphone volume. So that's your gain control. So you can set it here. You'll be able to figure it out. It'll have displays up here. I'll show you all this working shortly. But you can set the volume for your microphone and set the gain. Then here, the next one is a line input. So there is a line in connector here. Stop doing that. It's a 3.5 millimeter jack plug connection. So you could plug an audio device into it. You could plug a phone into it if it's got a headphone output, so that you could have sounds coming from another device running into this. So that would be your volume for that. The next one over, I keep hitting this, is a headphone socket. The headphone is exactly that. It's got a 3.5 millimeter headphone socket on the back, and that would be your audio control for that. At the bottom of it, there's a button for microphone monitor. When you press that, that will let you hear your own microphone coming through your headphones. If you need to hear that sound, if you need to be able to hear what levels you're actually putting through, you'll be able to press that button. And the last one here is a line output, and that's if you are feeding this audio out to something like a set of speakers, or perhaps you're feeding it out to another device, maybe another computer, for example, or another capture device or something like that, and it's got a line output socket on the back as well. There's also a headset socket. It's a 3.5 millimeter TRRS headset socket. So if you have one of those combined headsets where it's got headphones and a microphone coming down the side, and it's got a singular socket for that, a single plug that does both, plug it in there and you'll be able to use that as well. You'll be able to use its microphone and its headphones. So that is the gist of the device. The connection that connects it to your PC is USB-C. So we're now recording on the Fifine SC3, and I have, unfortunately, discovered something which isn't fantastic, and that is that the gain that this thing produces is not brilliant. The gain that the preamp that's pre-installed on this device is not a lot. If you're going to be running a power-hungry microphone, and keep in mind, this is running Fifine's own dynamic microphone here through XLR, you're going to need more power. I mean, this is limited. So I am max gain right now on this, and I'm only just barely hitting my peak volume for where I would want to output this, which means if I'm going to be streaming and I'm using OBS at the moment to record this, I'd have to add some of my own compressors and limiters and things in here to help me get the audio level that I want to get. But I mean, I'm right on top of this microphone. I'm only about 2, if that, inches away from the capsule of the microphone before going into the hole. This is the proximity effect, getting really close to the capsule. So I'm about 2 to 3 inches from the microphone is where you should be for this kind of mic. And I'm kind of talking almost into the top of it. I do have a few plosives because I'm really close to that mic. But that's what the kind of thing you're looking for. I mean, I can turn this away a little bit. I can talk across the end of the capsule there, but still there's a limitation here. So I've got my headphones maxed out, and I don't think it's that loud. So headphones, I'm really struggling here, and I don't think my headphones can go any higher. No, I've got my own inline volume control. That's maxed out. My headphones are maxed out. I'm still not very loud in my head. And looking at the audio output levels on OBS, it's struggling a bit. If you're going to use a power-hungry microphone like the Shure SM7B, which is notoriously power-hungry, your mic will be super quiet, which means you're going to need something of an inline mic booster, a preamp mic booster. So something like the Clark Technics CT1, the Triton Audio Fethead, the Cloud Lifter CL1. These are the kind of products you're going to need. Now, you can use those with this device because it does have 48 volt phantom power, so you can power a preamp booster. That's something that's worth checking, though, is to find out how it works with a condenser microphone. It just so happens I've got a condenser right here. I'm hitting everything all the time. This is the Rode NT1 second generation large diaphragm condenser microphone. We'll check what this is like on the Fifine SC3. So here we are now on the Rode NT1 second generation large diaphragm condenser microphone running 48 volts through the Fifine SC3 Mixer, and yes, it is much louder. So taking a powered microphone is definitely more helpful. However, if I go completely silent, you will hear my PC's fans in the background, which I couldn't hear using the K669D, the dynamic microphone. That's the nice thing about a dynamic. It will ignore a bunch of sound from around it, but a powered condenser microphone like this, it is quite loud. I mean, I could take the gain down. If I take the gain down, really down, then I could get more on top of the microphone, and it's not going to be quite so bad. Yeah, it's a bit quieter there, so there's a possibility there, but it means that if I need to turn my gain up, I can turn my gain up, and I'm going to get good sound, but I'm going to pick up that background noise. So it does work well. I'm sorry, I'm peaking there, but it does work well with a condenser powered 48 volts phantom power mic, but I don't have an inline booster to be able to boost the K669D. I'll be interested to see how that works on maybe another microphone, my daily driver, which is the Samson Q2U. Let's go and try that now. So now we're on my daily driver. This is my favorite microphone I own so far. This is the Samson Q2U. This is a USB and XLR dynamic microphone, and this is the mic I use to record my podcast all the time and all of my voiceover work. And yeah, it's really maxing out at about -10 decibels unless I go really loud, and then it just about goes over, but it doesn't go much more than that, and I am on full gain. Now that's quite interesting because my daily driver of an audio interface is not actually an audio interface, it's a podcast recorder. I'm just going to reach over here and grab it now so I can show you. This is my usual interface, and this is a Zoom PodTrack P4, so it's a podcast recorder which connects via USB-C, and I connect it through to my computer, and I can run this, and I can run my XLR microphones into my computer through this. It's a great piece of kit. Now, for clarification, just so you can tell the difference, the PodTrack, when I run this microphone, it has a dial from 0 to 10 for the gain of the microphones. And I run this mic at about 4 on my gain. And yet I'm running this thing at maximum. I mean, I've got gain wide open. It is absolutely full all the way up, and I'm not getting any louder sound from this, which is a bit of a disappointment, to be perfectly honest. So this is really struggling to drive this microphone. So again, there is the possibility that because it's not pushing too much gain, you could boost your audio later on. In this case, I'm going to go into OBS and I'm going to engage some filters and I'm going to add some sound here. I'm going to add some extras to try and boost that sound. So this lets you have an idea of how that would work. So let me just add, first of all, I'm going to add a compressor to this. And a compressor is going to give me a small amount of boost. It's going to pick up some of the quieter sounds. It's going to attenuate some of the louder sounds. I'm going to combine that with a limiter now, which means that it can't go any higher, although, to be honest, I'd have to be screaming at this mic to go for the limiter. And now I'm going to add some gain, and in this case, I'm adding 7 dBs of gain. It's maybe just a bit too much because now the limiter is engaging. So that gives me a more solid and stable sound. Then equalizer wise, I'm going to add my equalizer because I like to add a bit of high, take away a bit of mid, add a bit of low. This is a good mic for it though. The mic does sound really good already, but I've added that into the mix as well. And if I go completely quiet, I haven't switched on my noise suppression, but I just want you to hear the difference. If I go totally quiet with the gain maxed out here, very, very, very quiet. But again, I can take the gain down if I want to, and that would keep that a bit quieter. And if I take that gain down while using the features of OBS, I can still boost my audio to a decent sound so that when I go quiet, it's a bit quieter. I can also engage noise suppression so that if I add that in there now, it should get rid of all of that background noise. Yeah. 100%. So that is the limitation of this device. There are a few good things about it though. I don't just want to talk about the bads, I want to talk about the goods too. So I made a list of the pros and cons of this unit just to figure out what's good and what's bad about it. What's good is that you've got that combo jack, so it is XLR and also the large headphone jack there, which you can obviously make smaller, for inputs into that. And it also has auxiliary inputs. It has the microphone monitor. It has mute buttons, which is really handy. So if you are going to be using this as a mixer and you're going to have other sound sources coming into it, you can mute them. This is handy if you record a podcast, because there's going to be times when you want to clear your throat, cough, sneeze, make whatever noise, get a drink, whatever it is. And muting a microphone actually isn't that easy. With USB microphones, it's a bit easier because a lot of them have a button on the microphone, but if you're using an XLR, generally they don't. For my Samson, it has this on-off switch here, which is essentially mute, but it makes noise, and you can hear that through the microphone. When you flick the switch, you can hear it make a noise, which is not ideal. If you're recording a podcast, you want to get nice, clean sound. So there is a mute button for each channel here, for the microphone, for the headphones, and for the line out. So you can mute every one of those, and that mute is completely silent, as I will demonstrate now. I'm going to start talking, and then I'm going to mute, and then I'm going to unmute, and then I'm going to keep talking, and then I'm going to mute. And then I'm going to unmute, and you can tell there's no sound from me muting or unmuting this. So that is really good if you need to do things in the background and you don't want to pick up those noises. So that's good. It has RGB if that is important to you. It's not important. You can switch it off if you want. You literally press and hold the lights button for a second and all the other lights go out, apart from things that you have muted or activated. So if that's important to you, you can switch them all off. It has that 48 volt phantom power, so you can run a condenser microphone. It has a switch on the back to allow you to switch between condenser and dynamic, so that is always useful as well. So it helps you to pick out the right type of setup for whatever microphone you're using. It has a voice changer. If that's important to you, there are 6 different modes, and I'll demonstrate them now.
This is the male setting. The next one is female.
This is robot. This is monster.
This is baby. You really want a baby voice. It's so weird. And then finally,
Elder. This is elder. This is what I would sound like if apparently I was an elder person. Pressing it one more time brings you back to the start, which is male. Press and hold.
And it goes off and you're back to normal. So there's that. There is also not just voice changer. You've got this electric auto tune. Best way to describe it. And it has a bunch of different key notes. So when you press it, now we are in D. Now, the next 4 buttons are custom buttons, and you would assume with many devices like this that there is some software that you can pre-upload some sound files to it so that you can play them. And that's not the case with this. There is no software with this device. So you can't go into any software settings, you can't do any of that stuff. It's all controlled from the device. These custom buttons allow you to record something and then play it back later. The drawback is the playback quality or the record quality is poor. So let me let you hear this. What you have to do is press and hold it for a second, and while you're holding it, it will start to blink and you record until you let go. That will save it, then you press it once and it will activate. So let me do this now. Here I am recording something for custom button A. Now I've recorded that and you heard the sound quality that I spoke it. Here's the playback. Here I am recording something for custom button A. I mean, that sounds like something that comes off of MSN Messenger. I mean, it's not great quality, and it's like that with all of them. It's so low quality, which is a disappointment. So you can have those things, you know, record yourself a sound effect. Let's try it. It's not good. It means you can't put proper sound effects on there. It's only whatever comes out of your mouth. Decent instructions. Now, I will mention this much. It is a good instruction booklet. Of all the instruction booklets I've seen and pamphlets that have come with things, I mean, this is actually not bad. It's relatively comprehensive. It is one giant big fold out 3-sized sheet. I mean, this is big, but it's useful. It does tell you what all of the functions are. It's clearly labeled. It's written in decent English. It's not hard to understand, you know. Many things that come from China don't always have a great translation, but this is actually pretty good. And it does even talk about things like OBS at the back for helping you set up with OBS if you're going to be using this to stream or something. It is good. Some of the negatives on my list are that there is no power switch. There's no way to switch this off. If it's connected to your PC via USB-C, well, then it's on. That's just the way it is. There's no switch. The only switch on the back is for the dynamic and condenser microphone modes. That's it. But I mean, otherwise, it's just on all the time. Even if your lights are on, I know you can switch the lights off, but the device is still on all the time. There's no app control, like I mentioned. There's no software at all, so there's no way that I can tweak this. There's no way that I can change it. It is just how it comes out the box or however I tweak it physically, but there's nothing else that I can do to this via software. And annoyingly, if you are serious about your sound, there's no way to have a look at the decibel values for your sound output. In fact, because some of the sliders can be a bit higher, it can block your view depending on what sliders you have up. So here, if I've got my headphone slider all the way up and the line out slider all the way up, if I'm not directly above it, I can't really see them very clearly. But like I say, there's no mention of the numbers on the side of the meter. When this is working and when it's blinking away when I'm talking, there's no way to see what any of those values actually mean. That's a bit unfortunate because it means I then have to go and look at my screen to be able to see that. And if I don't have a setup where I can see my screen, then I can't really tell for sure what kind of output I'm getting, what kind of gain I'm putting in, what kind of volume I'm able to put out from this. I have to admit, I do like the RGB lights on it. It does give you some customization if your desk is going to be visible to other people. For example, if you're a streamer and you've got a camera that shows your setup and you like your RGB lights, it's nice. All of the connections are on the back of the unit, which can be kind of annoying, but they've thought about that, and there's a built-in divot of a channel that allows you to run your cables into the back, but then underneath the device and out the front, and they've even included the RGB lighting underneath there so it shines through that setup. It's quite nice. Build quality wise, it's all plastic. There's no metal here, but it doesn't feel too bad. It's a textured plastic and it feels quite nice. It has some rubber feet which allow it to grip onto your desk so it doesn't slide around when you are messing around with the faders. The faders themselves are dampened so they don't slide up and down easily, but they don't slide up and down with any kind of stiffness. They're relatively smooth, so there is that, and the buttons are all nicely laid out. So in conclusion, would I recommend the Fifine SC3? And the short answer is maybe. I don't know. I guess it depends on the type of content you're going to be putting out. If you're using it on a PC, if you don't have an audio interface of any sort, and you're looking for something which is a decent price, which gives decent functionality, which isn't too difficult to work out how to use, and you want just nice big sliders on there, and it's easy to get the volume level you want, and you want that mute control, and you want the ability to connect other devices to it, I think it's pretty good. I mean, it's less than £60. That's a decent price, considering that audio interfaces on their own generally start around about £35–40 for something decent enough quality with a brand name on it. But they're just audio interfaces. They don't have things like mute buttons on them. They don't have the ability to connect multiple other devices and do things easily. So there is something to be said for the ease of use with this. Plus, it does look good. A drawback would be that if it's a gaming mixer, a lot of people who game and stream maybe want to have their chat audio as well in something like Discord, and normally some proper gaming mixers will allow you a slider to control that level. You'll have a level for your desktop audio, so the game sound itself, a level for your microphone, a level for your chat audio. This doesn't let you do any of that. This is literally your microphone sound, your headphone sound, and your line input sound. That's it. So it's not as comprehensive as some other proper mixers for that kind of gaming type setup. But by the same token, it's not expensive. And a lot of those other ones can be much pricier. So it's not a jack of all trades. I'd say this is definitely a budget streaming mixer. But if all you're doing is chatting, playing a bit of gaming or something, you don't want to go too in depth, I think it works well. Just keep in mind that if your microphone is a really high-end microphone, then you're going to be looking to get yourself some sort of microphone booster. A booster is going to cost you anywhere from around about £25 for the lesser-known ones. For something that's a good name, I think £38 will get you the Clark Technics CT1. A cloud lifter will probably cost you about £80. You might get the Triton FET head for about £60 or so. That would certainly give you a boost because you'll be able to connect it to this device, switch on the 48-volt phantom power. That will then power the booster and give you more gain in your microphone. That'll help you take the gain down a bit and give you a bit more flexibility if you need that extra volume for your microphone. So keep in mind, not all mics are made the same. Some microphones demand more power. This may not do the job. So don't immediately think to yourself that you can buy a high-end microphone and a cheap mixer, because they may not be fully compatible with each other, and then you're going to have to go and invest a little bit more money. I hope this is interesting though to you. I hope it's comprehensive enough for you. If you have any questions, any suggestions, any comments, please do leave them down below and I'll get back to you and I'll see if I can make any further content. But I'm going to box this up and send it off to my friend now because he's going to be using this as our podcast mixer for his end. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have done, smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here. I've been Specky. I'll see you guys in the next video.